Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Voxcaster. I'm your host, Dan, and on today's episode, Brian and myself have the pleasure to sit down with a couple of members from On Tabletop. Joining us today, we have JT and Tack. Welcome to the show, guys.
How do?
First of all, huge thanks for joining us so early in the morning. It's probably, roughly around 8 o'clock your guys' time right now?
Give or take, yeah.
Not that early for us, though.
It's not that, coffee. I'm a 14-year-old. It is what it is.
True. That's why, I messaged you this morning just to make sure for your email for Skype and all that. And I'm like, oh, man, 7 o'clock their morning. I hope I don't wake them up. And it's like, as I'm thinking, you responded to me. I'm like, okay. Don't feel so bad right now. And then when you said you were up since 4:30, I'm like, all right, no, I'm in the clear. I'm good. I'm not going to be that guy.
The edit machine never sleeps. We've got our first episode dropping on this coming Thursday the 4th. So running through it to do any last minute spelling mistakes and stuff like that. It's up on our Patreon already. But so we never sleep, basically. Never sleep.
The joys of the job. But no, I seen your guys' season 3 trailer, and I'm excited to see with the guests you guys have on, everything set up. I'm super pumped to see what you guys are going to have for this one.
It's a good one. It's a really good one for sure.
No, perfect. So pretty much what we'll start the episode off with some introductories. In case any of the listeners might not be too familiar with who you guys are, just kind of like a little bit of intro and kind of like what's your position in Play On, just to go from there. So if you want to start with yourself, JT.
Sure. I'm the dulcet tones of Play On Tabletop. I do most of the narration and the script writing. And what we mean by script writing is all those wonderful things that I say, somebody's got to write them. So it makes sense that I do that. So I sit and take notes during our games and make sure that everybody gets the rules right, make sure that we're doing things properly, and then effectively record that later. I also do a lot of other script writing for some of the other projects we have, but that's my primary role at Play On. But Play On Tabletop is we're known for our 40K in 40 minutes and our new Kill Team Challenger series that just wrapped up. That's where we take a 3-hour 40K game and condense it into 40 minutes. We show you all the highlights, show the important stuff, show you the excitement, but some of that stuff in between that takes a long time, we cut it out because it's not as digestible. Sure, if you're a competitive player and you want to see every decision, absolutely, the 3-hour battle report is totally what you should be watching. But if you want to show somebody something that they've never seen before and you want to get your significant other maybe into 40K, or even if you know, hey, grandma, check this out. We have a lot of people who have no idea what 40K is commenting on our videos because, wow, that was so cool, or I thought this was only a video game. And that's what we're after. We want to bring this game to the masses and show how exciting it can be, because we all know it is, but we know already. So let's bring everybody else in. So that's kind of what we do and sort of what I do.
Perfect. And that's what I love about the 40K in 40 minutes. Like you said, it's like you don't even have to be a player of the game, a fan of the game to really appreciate what you guys are putting into this. It's just like I say, it's a show in itself, and it's just like it really draws your attention in. And just like you said, it just takes that 1 second to be like, well, what is this? And like you said, it's not just a video game, because a lot of people know it from like the Space Marine game or the Dawn of War games, and don't fully realize that this is actually a game you can play on tabletop with little plastic men. And then that's your first step into a downward spiral into like 20,000 models and
$20,000.
Oh,
plastic crap.
The number you never see in front of your significant other. Okay.
Yeah, well, it's not an inexpensive hobby, but it's still an amazing hobby, and it's an amazing community. I mean, look at us. We're on the other side of the continent right now, and we're having a chat about a game that we all play with toy soldiers, which is pretty cool. And that's really the other reason we do this, because we want to show what a community war gamers really are. I think they're some of the best people in the world play war games and play these tabletop games, and I really think that part of our mission is to show just how much we all care about this game and I care about each other, because it is an amazing hobby. I've been doing it for 35 years, so and my son started doing it now, so it's pretty cool.
That's an achievement right there. Like I said, my little one, she's only 3 years old right now, but like every time she comes in the room, she's like, ooh. I'm like, one day this will be all yours.
Nice.
Just for now, don't touch, please.
Okay. Nice.
So over to you, Tak. So what's your little introductory?
What is my introductory? I don't know. I wear a lot of hats here at Play On. more comfortable behind the scenes. I'm one of the executive producers on 40K and 40, actually on probably all the shows, except for Kill Team Challenger. And yeah, I do the paperwork. I do the mundane stuff. I do the graphics. I do the editing. And I play games sometimes. I'm starting to get a bit of a rep as the bad guy on the channel because last season I kind of beat up on Steven more times than I should have. So and
More times than should be allowed. Let's be honest.
and you know what? It's not how Steven plays. He's a good player. Just his dice seem to just vomit when they see me for whatever reason.
They do.
But-
They really do.
But you know what? Just that statement alone, the dice, like that's the story of my life. Like here in the local area, myself and another friend of ours, Craig MacArthur. If you watch a game between the both of us, 1,000-point game will last 5 hours because we're rolling nothing but ones and twos. Like we have cursed the dice gods so badly that people come to watch our game just to sit there, laugh with their arms kind of crossed, and being like, "Wow, really?" So I definitely feel that right there.
You know, it can go the other way. Me and JT had absolute awkward, weird, amazing game at a tournament once where he could roll nothing but sixes on things when they were about to explode.
Yep.
So out of 11 vehicles or 11 things that could explode, 7 did.
Oh, that must have made Nick so happy.
Well, it wasn't on
He wasn't there.
Yeah, it wasn't there. It was just JT going, "What the heck? What the heck? What the heck?" I think you even killed some of your own units before I even got to.
Yeah, my Archon died without ever losing his shadow field to mortal wounds from
no.
stuff exploding near him. Go figure.
That's even worse than rolling a 1 on your first shadow field.
The best was 2 Talos charging a Repulsor Executioner and dying to Overwatch. 2 full wound Talos.
Jeez.
Prophets of the Flesh.
Yep.
Gross.
I just how? Just
Uh-huh.
how?
Ultramarines rerolls,
Oh.
and I think you rolled a 6 on one of those too to explode,
Yeah, and that
jeez.
killed the other one. Yeah.
and that killed the other one.
Uh-huh.
Attaboy.
That's just when you want to just sit down. Like you don't want to concede, but you just give me a sec. Just sit down, reassess life, and just.
Oh no, I just wanted to flip the table. I was done. I'm like, this is
Well, that's
stupid.
to prevent that. That's why I'm saying that.
Yeah, it was a fun tournament though. We had an absolute blast. And then my round 5 I did exactly the same thing against another friend of ours, Andrew. That same thing. Everything that could explode did. I'm like, all right, it's a good weekend. Thanks, Tack. You started this.
You said you wanted to roll hot, so you rolled 6s. Not my problem.
I did. Just the wrong time.
You just didn't specifically say when and where and how, but
It's true. Tack is the master of bad dice juju. I think that's really what his aside from all the other stuff that he does. I mean, the executive producer, he's the genius behind the concept that we came up with. I mean, he's the guy who put all this together, really, and he needs to. It should be said that credit should go to him, because he's the one who brought us together and brought the 6 of us together and started this. But the one thing that he definitely brings is bad juju with his opponent's dice. His dice are average to good, but he has some kind of voodoo power that just makes opponents' dice go bleh.
so it's like whenever he gets within 6 feet of those dice, you kind of have to keep that dice bag like on a separate table and just be like,
Oh, it's like an aura. It's like seriously, it's like both
I'm
a
not a
moment.
space marine. I don't have auras.
You get that 9-inch Gulliman aura.
oh my god.
But it is a team effort. I put together a team where I asked for a team to come together simply because I'm not good on things like this where I'm talking, and I'm not good in front of the camera. Not as good as like the Nicks, the Tychos, the JTs, Stevens, right? So it really is a team effort when you're putting together a team where you have a big mission, you have a big goal. And our goal really was to entertain a brand new 40K audience and kind of bring a lot of people into this hobby. So I knew I can do that myself, and I absolutely believe that I put the best team together.
Nice. No, definitely. Like I said, every time you watch an episode and like you see the element of everybody's hard work put into it. And like you said, like whenever we first started this podcast, that was the first thing. Like I didn't want to start this by myself. I brought on 3 guys that had strengths in different areas. And like you said, that's what makes it work. And that's what you're going to get the most results out of.
Awesome.
Teamwork.
I also brought on guys that have bad dice luck against me, so.
So pretty much what we'll do, the way we kick off every episode after the introductories, and it's the one thing everybody wants to hear, is your story into the world of 40K. So like obviously, like I said, I've watched many interviews, and I know a lot of you guys, like 40K wasn't the first true love. You guys played other miniature games, this and that. But what was that first step into the world of 40K itself? Like from day one, like the first model you seen? Was it the video game? What was it that caught your heart and just never let go? Starting with you, JT.
Some guy in a van, a windowless van, took me by the hand, and no, I'm kidding.
Plastic
Uh,
That sounds like
windowless van,
like a game store and how I kind of got started. Jesus,
tear-stained
flashback.
mattress in the back. No,
Yeah.
it was a buddy who said, "Hey, this is cool," and I went, "Yeah, that's cool," and I bought the soft cover because I couldn't afford a hardcover Rogue Trader because I was 13 years old, and that extra $15-20 was huge at that time.
Mm.
And then my soft cover promptly fell apart, so I think I ended up with a hardcover. But it started with fantasy, and then it went to 40K because fantasy was fun. But oh man, I got to build how many models? And
Yeah,
that
I
was a
feel
pain,
that
right?
one. I feel that.
Rank and flank is fun, and I still really enjoy it. But it was just at the time, it was just too much. And I could get a box of plastic Space Marines. I mean, I remember when they came out. Holy crap, that was a game changer,
Mm.
absolute game changer. Because now I could have an entire squad of Marines with all the cool weapons, and it wasn't that expensive. And that's kind of where it started. But for me, it was always the love of the Eldar. It was that pointy hair or pointy eared, pointy helmet, the cool little Corsair wings, the space pirate kind of feel to them. I really dug that. Ice Pirates was one of my favorite movies as a kid, and I had this concept that, oh, they're kind of like Eldar Ice Pirates. That's kind of how they work, right? I know what a weird reference to go to Ice Pirates, but that was really where I fell in love. Was when the Eldar models, all the Space Marines were cool and they were neat, but I love the Eldar, and I have ever since. And that's really where it all started.
Nice. How about yourself, Tack?
I've been playing this for maybe 7-8 years. Not very long. So I've been painting off and on for a really long time. And it was actually Paul, one of the members of Play On, that's typically behind the scenes. He kind of saw me posting up photos on Facebook saying, "Hey, I painted this thing," and he asked me if I played the game. I didn't really know there was a game at the time, so he kind of got me started. But really, what put me down the road and is never going to let me go is I attended a local charity tournament, and there's a lot of local charity tournaments here in the Lower Mainland, which is amazing. So this one was put on by Finley Craig. It was the first Toss Your Cabers, and what happened was I didn't know what the scoring rubric was going to be. I just wanted to go there, have fun, meet a lot of new hobbyists, new players, just have a good time. And I didn't know that they scored best overall, kind of the winner of the tournament, as the person that got the best sportsmanship score. So someone that was enjoyable to play, got a good winning record, or a decent winning record, and also scored high on painting, right? So it was kind of the three tenets of the hobby: painting, being a good sportsman, and trying to be competitive, trying to play a good game. And so by the end of it, I would one win, one loss, one tie, and then they called best overall, and it was me, and I was really surprised about that. But what it kind of showed was that it was going to be a great hobby because it's a great community, and it's a community that cares about all those things, and more so than anything else, cares that you're going to have a good time at these tournaments. So after playing in that one, I've never looked back.
Nice. And that's super important. Like you want to go, and like you said, you want to go and get encouraged to keep going. Like if you keep getting crushed, you're kind of be like, well, why bother? But like you said, like you went one win, one loss, one draw, still took overall because like you said, like you enjoyed the game, you made the games with your opponents friendly, like you enjoyed the hobby aspect as itself just as much as the game aspect of it. And like I said, that is what Warhammer is. That's the most important part, is enjoying all the elements of it.
That's the big thing I enjoy with 40K too. Like I've only been playing for about 2 years, and the tournaments I've gone to, people get salty at the game, yeah, but at the end of the day, you're all having a good time, having a beer afterwards, talking about what went bad, and just having fun with the game. Like it's a great hobby to get into.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if that salt continues past the tabletop, me and JT probably would be friends.
And it goes back to the dice rolls. And
Oh, we never get salty at the table, do we, Tack?
I mean, all through 7th edition, I would constantly hit you second round. Almost
I know.
every single tournament. And then I would lose to you second round. I lost to you for second round for 3 straight years, I think.
Yeah, that was true. It didn't matter what happened in the first round. Tack would get a win, I would get a win, and then it was always he and I round 2. It was dumb. It was so dumb. But then we did a tournament where we ended up facing each other round 3, and it was a charity tournament. And we looked at the table, and we looked at it, and I'm like, "Do you really care if you win this?" Tack's like, "No." I said, "You were talking about chicken earlier. I'm hungry." Yeah. All right. So it's a charity event. We're going to call it a draw. And Tack went and bought how much chicken? I don't even know. It was enough to feed the entire tournament.
I bought enough for like 50. Was it? No, it was more like 40 people, 30 people.
Oh, 40 people. Yeah.
Wow. So I bought enough fried chicken. I actually bought them out. I think they were a little disturbed because they're like, we have other customers, I'm like, no, I want all your chicken.
Yeah.
Give me it all.
It was hilarious.
Are you real? Are you going to pay for that first?
Yeah.
I've been there.
Oh,
it was absolutely hilarious. We come walking back in with armloads of chicken, and people are like, "Huh?" And they're still playing because, of course, we were like, I think we deployed and went, "I don't want to play. Let's go."
And then by that time, everybody else called the draw and ate chicken.
Yeah, it was good. Just good chicken too. Oh, such good chicken.
No, and like you said, it's great to see just stuff like that. Like especially charity tournaments. Like, unfortunately, like I say, we don't have many of those around here. But again, it's just because the scene itself is still growing where we're at. Like, we don't get huge events, this and that. The last charity event we went to was actually there was a passing of a local player, so we had a big thing to do the support, this and that, and like the turnout was probably one of the biggest turnouts I've ever seen for a tournament. And it kind of goes back to what you were saying, JT. Like it brings the community together, and you see when it really like matters the most. Like it was just like people I've never seen, people from out of town, people being like, "Hey, I played him once. He was a great guy. I want to come support." And like it made it so just beautiful to see. Just the support, the community coming together, and like I said, it's just people that met through Warhammer. They would never have known each other anywhere else, but it was because of a game they picked up and they played, and it brought the community that close together. It was the first time because it was very early when I started playing, and I think that was the part that just grabbed me by the heart and just I never went back. I could never turn my mind because that's what it was. It's just like I've made so many friends and so many connections through this game that I enjoy so much.
Yeah, it's an amazing game for that. I was having a chat with actually with Dave from Mini Wargaming the other day, and we were talking about it and how he was quite touched by a painter over in England who's got a Twitch channel, and he was incredibly moved that this person was painting stuff for people for free. And he said, "I can't believe this. Like what an incredibly cool person." And we were talking about it, and I said, it's about those connections. The game is just the vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
It really is, and it's one of the best vehicles for it. The game is a vehicle, and the connections are what matters. And it's, I mean, I have friends all over the world because of this game, and that's pretty cool. I can't think of anything else that I could be doing outside of an organized sport, if you will, at a high level. And this is literally just me buying a box of models, painting some stuff up, and going to an event. And now I know these people. I don't have to be, have a scholarship to a tier 2 school or tier 1 school or anything like that to meet these people. I just know them because we all have a shared love of the game and a shared language. And that's the cool part about it.
Mm-hmm.
We can sit and talk about all sorts of stuff about the game and know exactly what we're talking about. But that shared language just brings us together. And I think that's really, really cool.
No, definitely. And like the funny part is that's why we try to put an actual cap on the length of our episodes, because if we didn't, I can see episodes going 4-5 hours just because, like I said, when you start talking, it's just like you get so immersed with just the memories and just the love of the game that is just like it doesn't end, and it's great. I love it.
We have shoots that go till 2:30 in the morning, don't we, Tack?
Let's not talk about those.
Well, it reminds me of like, cause like whenever we were doing our game nights, like before, like pre-COVID, this and that, the routine was around 5:30, 6 o'clock. You go to the local gaming club, you play 4 or 5 hours of gaming. Then from there, we would go to like a local sports pub type thing, get some food, and we'd be there until like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning because everybody be talking about their games and talking about like strategies they want to come up with. And it's like, oh man, did you see that? Like I've been trying this, and just it goes on and on and on until they kick us out. And then we realized, like, holy crap, we played 5 hours and we're still sitting here for another 3, 4 hours, just continuously talking. And just it would go until like 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, or until we had to go to work at least. But
Yeah, yeah, it's a good game. Love it, love it.
all right, so next part on the episode that a lot of people like to see, and you kind of already hinted a little bit at it, JT, but through the adventures of Warhammer, what are some of the armies you've played, and what were some of the ones that kind of stuck to today? Because obviously a lot of people play armies, they sell them off, they try something new. Just off your introductory, you named one army you kind of got you into, and we all know well that you're still rocking them. But what are some other armies that you rocked along the years?
Oh, geez. I've never sold a Warhammer army, I can tell you that much, ever. I've sold a Legion of Everplane army, a War Machine army, right before the edition dropped, so I actually got value out of it. But that's the only army I ever sold, and that's the only army I don't regret selling. I've never sold, shouldn't say I've never sold a Warhammer army. I did sell some AdMech to a certain player who's also on this call. Because he had an AdMech force, and yeah, no, that's the only one I just never going to get to it. It was unfortunate, and a lot of it was still in box, and I'm like, oh, there's just no point. I just have too much stuff on my plate. I have Orcs, I have Space Marines, I have Imperial Fists, I have Blood Angels, I have Emperor's Children, I have Slanesh, I have Eldar, Dark Eldar, Harlequins. Oh cripes! I think I have everything except for maybe Tau.
And AdMech, or no, you probably still have AdMech.
I have some pieces. Yeah, I've got a couple of Knights floating around. Yeah, I've got almost everything. Space Wolves. My son has Space Wolves, so that counts too. Yeah, I've got like tons. But Dark Eldar are absolutely my favorite. Always have been. The Evil Space Pirate is so cool. I mean, back in 5th, I think it was, that Assault on Blackreach box set that came out was such a great buy with the Marines and the Orcs in it. And it had Def Coptas. Ooh, it had 3 Def Coptas. You could only get those on Forge World before. So that was really cool. And I bought a ton of those. Buddy's daughter was getting into the game, and we bought a bunch of them and split them. And I just bought more and more of them because, Orcs and Orcs and Orcs, right? So I have tons and tons of those from 5th edition. And my son kept asking me what I was painting because there's a builder's competition at the time. So I was going to build 2,000 points Orcs, which was like 90 boys or something, right? So every time he'd walk by the kitchen table, because that's where I'd put it so that I'd actually work on it. Otherwise, it would just get buried. What are those, Daddy? What are those, Daddy? Well, those are Orcs, son. Those are Orcs, son. So it took him until he was like 7 years old to call any miniature by its actual name. They were all Orcs. Space Marines, Orcs. Eldar, Orcs. It was just they were all Orcs because that's what he saw, right? But no, now it's Dark Eldar and has been for quite a few years. I love the aesthetic. I love the feel. I love the concept. They're not like their Eldar cousins in that they don't really want to save the universe.
Yeah.
They just kind of want to be.
We messed up. We're gonna keep going.
Yeah, we're good. Yeah, sorry about the god that we birthed.
Thing, but
oops.
Yeah.
We're just gonna keep rolling.
Yeah.
And they're the cool thing about them. I mean, everybody talks about them being the bad guys, but of all of the races in the universe, the Eldar are the most inclusive of any of them. Because it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you're male, you're female. It doesn't matter if you identify as a crocodile. It makes no difference. If you have the power, then you have the control and you are the leader. That's like, I love the story of Vect. I mean, he was literally a slave that rose to power and has been in control of the Dark City for like 10,000 years because he is absolutely ruthless and absolutely brilliant. So there's this concept of power that just it's kind of cool, and it's unique in all the other armies because Tau are all about the greater good. Orcs kind of have it, but Orcs are always spoiling for a fight anyway. But the Dark Eldar have this cool aesthetic to them, and let's face it, spiky raiders and stuff, those are cool. I love the look, and I love the way they play. I can't wait for a new codex. I am
So
absolutely
close,
jonesed.
so close. Like Brian and myself, like we're
Yeah.
both resident Drukhari players, and like we feel you 110% there. Like we had Skari on for an episode a month or so ago, and like I said, the word Drukhari came up, and it's just we all got excited because at the time the release was supposed to be January.
Yeah.
And so like my little poor heart when it's like we still don't have that release date. I'm hoping tomorrow because we're recording this on Saturday, so on Sunday whenever they kind of do the preview pre-orders, I'm like, please God, just give it to me.
And I originally
but-
started with the Death Guard, and I seen Dark Eldar for the first time, and that was it. And I was like, that's my new army. I love their play style. I love their aesthetic. And now I'm just super excited to run these 15 Incubi with their new stat profile with this Tantalus.
I have
Good old
30
party bus.
Incubi. I have 30 of them.
See, I still got a bunch of the old pewter ones, so I bought one of the new box. I'm sitting at like 20 right now. I'm like, I know I need more.
Oh yeah, I've got 20 pewter ones. I think I should get the stats for the guns and the hats because that was the coolest part about them. They had guns in their hats, man. Like
Oh,
that
man.
was cool. Like, come on, give me back my guns and my hats. I want them. I want the guns and the hats. Damn it.
Yeah.
There's so many things I'm not even gonna start going because I'm not even gonna stop talking. So for yourself, Tack. So like again, so what's some of the armies you played along the way, and which ones that are you still currently playing? And
All right. First painted army was Grey Knights. Sold them to Paul. Second painted army was Space Wolves. Sold them to a local player. The entire army. Shouldn't have. Third painted army was the AdMech. Sold that to a local player. Shouldn't have, because then we needed them for season 2.
That was a war convocation, though. That wasn't just AdMech. That was the whole war convo with the knight.
Yeah, with everything. Yeah, and I sold it all. Then when Primaris came out, I got on the Space Marine train. And so I've got like probably 10,000 points of Ultramarines painted.
nice.
More in a box, more in several boxes. But I don't get to play the Ultramarines very much on the channel because Space Marine Steve is our resident Space Marine player. So I switched to AdMech again.
Yeah.
We'll start it from scratch for season 2. And I guess I can say it. I'll be playing Necrons at some point this season as well.
Ooh.
Yeah, they're pretty good with their new stuff. I like the way they play.
I'm finding that for myself, I'm now being told what to play versus choosing. So, yeah. So I'm learning Necrons because somebody at the studio told me to.
Nice.
It's like, have you seen these guys? You should play them. Play them now, please. Yes.
Well, we're also we go a bit crazy when like a new edition comes out or a new kind of starter set comes out where we may challenge ourselves to just paint them, build them, paint them in a weekend, so we can put them on the channel as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we kind of go on these rough tangents. I've had JT and Tycho over pre-COVID, and just were in my kitchen like scrambling to put models together because they need to be painted the next day so that they can be filmed the day after.
Oh,
It's-
jeez.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
literally, we're assembling them. We're running them upstairs, attacking base coat them, coming back downstairs, running up the next set. Yeah, it's it's hilarious.
Oh, jeez.
It's fun. It really is. It really is fun.
But that's the fun of the game. Just you rush, you go balls deep, you try to get everything done way too fast. It just makes you love the game that much more.
Well, I mean, it's also something that you can actually play with your miniatures, and I think that's the best part of this is that you get to style your army however you like. There's so many armies, you can choose a play style, and then you actually get to interact with another human being who probably loves their models as much as you love your models and have a great time. Because I came from like scale modeling or like Gundams. I used to build a lot of those, and great, you build them, you build a beautiful diorama, and for a little bit of time you get to admire it, and then it just starts to collect dust in your house or wherever you stick them, right?
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, it was really fun to kind of now have these projects where we're gunning for a purpose. We're like gunning either to try to make it to a tournament So you're painting everything up to make it to a tournament, or you're trying to gun to make it onto a show.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely. I definitely feel that crunch. Like I said, come tournament time, whenever you switch your list like 3 days too, and you're like, oh goddamn. All right, let's get painting.
Or
The
FAQ
dropped
drops
the
the
weekend
week
before.
before.
Oh,
Yeah, there you go. Right? Exactly. You're like, oh crap.
Oh,
I gotta
those guys
change
are
it all.
useless now.
Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah.
All right, let's get the other guys out.
Yeah.
No, and I love hearing the stories of like armies that people play because you see the evolution of like what you started with to what you're playing now, and I especially love in your case, JT, where it's like you're still playing one of the original armies that you started with. So like the love is still there after how many years of playing, just because the army itself just grabbed at you so hard as just like you're not letting go. It's like myself, like day one I started with Chaos, and it was not too far after I got to Drukhari, and it's all I've ever played is just Chaos and Drukhari. I'd never really looked back at anything else. I've never owned like a Imperial army. Not to say that I never will, but it's just
Imperial
the lore and
Army's
everything.
garbage. Chaos and Xenos for life.
I can see one of our other co-hosts, Justin, single tear when he's listening to this one right now. But no, I just like I said,
No
I love
respect
hearing
playing
about
Iron
that.
Hands.
Yeah, he did it to himself.
Yeah.
Nice.
But no, so moving on. So next thing that I'm sure everybody would like to hear is you kind of touched a little bit on it, like how did Play On start? So you kind of said like TAC just kind of reach out to you guys, this and that. So giving information to like say, I guess this can kind of relate to like myself and Brian because the next project that we have with our podcast right now is battle reports.
Mhm.
So what was the process from starting from the conversation going forward? What were the key things that you guys needed to do to make sure you were going in the right direction? So when you did start it up, that it was going to try to go as smoothly as possible. Although we know it's not always going to go as smoothly as possible, but what was the game plan that took you guys from the beginning to being able to like film like your first or second episode type thing?
That's a good question. We had a concept in mind of making a battle report more accessible. And that was sort of TAC had that concept, and we talked a lot about how to do it. Do we want to have a narrator? Do we want to have a live call? How do we want to work this out? And we worked a lot on that idea and that concept. And then the very first opportunity we had, and it was a giant time crunch, and I don't think we realized how much of a time crunch it was going to be, was the Wet Coast event where Jim Vessel and I think it was Jim and Justin were playing Orcs versus his Chaos Soup, and we recorded that game, recorded the top table, and then we curated that game. TAC took copious amounts of notes at that game because I was busy TOing the tournament. Then TAC and I worked together on a script. Nick edited everything down. We talked about the game, and then we recorded the audio, and then we released that within a week, I think, of the Wet Coast. So instead of people seeing a top table, which is a 3 hour, 2.5 hour game, they saw an hour of everything that important that happened, and were told what was going on and made it accessible. And that was our first sort of launch. And we learned a lot from that. We recorded a couple of battle reports that never saw air. And we learned a lot from those as well. How to block shots, what we need to do, what we need to pay attention to, what shots we need. And it really evolved. I mean, you can go from our first season and watch what we did and then go all the way to the end of it. By the end of it, we've got a pretty good rhythm. And then when we hit season 2, it's just a completely different animal altogether again. We learned so much in that first year. And it literally took a year to figure all of this stuff out. The best advice I can give anybody who wants to do something like this is we started with a pretty clear vision of what we wanted. We changed it as we needed to, but we kept to that core vision. And I think that's really what made us stand out and made it different. Was we had a vision of what we wanted. We knew what we wanted it to look like. We set metrics that, okay, if we don't hit this number by this time, we're calling it quits. And I think we smashed all those. TAC would know this better than me. We smashed those within a month, 2 months or something. The metrics we'd set for a year of X number of subscribers, X number of views, that kind of thing. So it really worked out well as far as that goes. But it was that clear vision. This is what we want to do. This is how we want to do it. These are the ideas, and there were no bad ideas at the time. We just ruled them out. Okay, this isn't going to work. How would this work? And we were pretty honest with each other. And between the six of us, it's come out to what you see now in 40K in 40 minutes. And it's I can't even watch some of those early episodes. I'm like, what the hell are we doing? That first episode with Mike and Steve is still one of my favorites. But you could just see how the genesis of it is there, and then it just grows so quickly from that. What were the metrics, Tack? Do you remember what we had set and how quickly we got through those? Do you recall?
We wanted 1,000 views on a video within the first 3 months. We wanted 10,000 views on our channel by the first 6 months. And we wanted to hit YouTube partner status, I think, in 6 months as well. And we hit every single milestone in that first month because of the West Coast tournament.
Wow.
And it's like what JT says. When you're starting an endeavor, look for your why. Look for what reason do you exist amongst the ocean of other people that also exist, right? And it's not because you've got an ego or you've got something that just benefits yourself. Like, I think what you want to do is you want to look at what's going to benefit the community, what's going to benefit the people as a whole, right? And we looked at battle reports, and there was a lot of, or I guess at the time, really the only popular battle reports were the long format battle reports, 2-3 hour endeavors. And they're backed by incredible personalities that really make those 2 to 3 hours entertaining to watch or listen to, right? But that left a gap for something else to come about. And so we looked at that. We looked at, okay, well, if we're going to start this endeavor and we're going to look at what PlayOn can do and what PlayOn can bring to the table, no pun intended, what was that going to be? And some of us have a film and video background, so we're used to kind of a higher production value. And others were simply looking and bringing ideas to the table about, like, what can we do to make this entertaining, first and foremost, for anyone. So we weren't, from the get-go, targeting just gamers. We're going to target anyone that was willing to sit down with us for X amount of time and simply be entertained. And how can we create an entertaining show? Because the best part of entertainment and entertaining shows is that you may not be a fan of cooking, or you may not be a fan of tabletop gaming, or you may not be a fan of whatever you happen upon. And if you watch a really well-produced show, something that's entertaining and, better yet, inspiring, you may want to start doing that. And that's kind of the premise of Play on Tabletop.
Nice. And you guys definitely did it in the right direction, because like I was saying, like we talked about a little bit earlier, and like I said, you could be somebody that's never heard the word 40K, or like you said, you just played the game and then you see the production that you guys put out, and it sucks you in, it drags you in. Like, because I know myself, like I was always a fan of all different types of battle reports, because it's fun to see the different styles. And again, like sometimes like the longer bat reps, like don't get me wrong, I do get immersed into it, especially when you're watching a good host and good people playing, because it's just like you kind of want to see more what they're going to say or what they're going to do while they're playing. But when you hit that like 2.5, 3 hour mark, sometimes, like I don't want to say you lose interest, but it's just like I find myself, I'll start doing other things while watching it, then I kind of miss a part. But that's what I love about you guys, is just like it's bam, here it is, and the whole way along, it's like you have so much to keep you immersed with just like you have amazing people playing games, like between like you guys, your guests, and it's just like you keep people wanting to come back. You keep being like, it's like, oh, when's the next explosion that Nick's gonna put on? Like it was like when I first, I was like, ooh, they're stepping this up. I like this, and like, so that's what I mean. Like it is, I love seeing your guys' videos progress, because like I said, you guys keep getting better, and when you think you can't get any better, you guys add something else, and you're like, holy crap! Like then like me and Brian were sitting down, like trying to do like a basis of kind of like what we want to go do. So we're like, okay, so we know we can't do that, but what can we do? But that's why I love, like, that's what makes you guys stand out above everybody else. And that's what makes a lot of people love watching your stuff, let alone, like I said, you might not even like 40K, but you keep coming back and watching your episodes just because they're so enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, it was kind of the goal, was to make it entertainment. It's as much as it's about 40K, it's about entertainment, and we want to entertain. We want people to have fun watching, and we want people to understand what's going on. So anytime you look at a good, I mean, here's an example. Forged in Fire is one of my favorite shows. Love watching that show. But literally, I'm watching guys heat up metal and beat it. Like that is what's happening. They're smacking metal with a hammer, but it keeps you engaged for an hour. You know, there are shows like that. I mean, a lot of people like, you know, Great Canadian, Great English, Great British Bake Off, whatever. People are baking, seriously. Like, would you sit at home and watch your grandma or your mom bake? Just sit in the corner of the kitchen with a cup of coffee and watch them bake? Probably not, but it's on TV, so you watch it.
I'm guilty. I don't know how many times I was on my phone on Netflix. I just, whatever. It's like season 2 comes on, wife comes home. What are you watching? It's like, shh, she's about to hit to the finals. I got to make sure this doesn't actually topple over because the ingredients didn't mesh very well. So I mean, I get you completely.
And you're
right
totally
there.
invested, right? And that's the key is, you know, you may never go and make a flan yourself, but, you know, you want to make sure that so-and-so's rises properly. And it's part of it. It's entertainment. And that's the 21st century, man. It's all about entertainment, right? And we can bring the excitement that we play on the tabletop. If we can show that and we can engage with people that and they can see that and they can feel that, then that we're honestly, I've said it before, we're greedy. We want more players playing this game because more players playing this game means more players to play with. And if there's more players to play with, that means events can be bigger. That means you can pick up a game easier. You can find people to play with, and it just grows the community overall. So that's really, really one of the ancillary benefits of doing what we do.
We want more friends.
We want more friends. Yes, we do.
We want the world to be our friends through our miniature gaming. And I completely get that.
Now, what's interesting about that as well is that we've started in partnership collaboration endeavor with Deployment Zone Television. So this is Liam and Winters SEO over in the UK. One, they've got a huge and awesome dream and concept going on with DZTV. But secondly, what that's forced us to do, we talked about audiences there, where the European audience and maybe especially, we get a lot of comments going, you're very American in your show style. And in turn, some people have said you're fake, you're acting, you're you know, and I will say that no, those dice rolls are like what is happening. Even as unbelievable as calling out boxcars is, they happen.
Yes, you did that, Tack.
Yeah. Sorry, Steve. Sorry, Steve. But what's interesting now is we have a challenge. We have an audience that has already said they don't like our style. And now a producer in the UK has asked us to do our style for that audience again. And we've had to go back to the drawing board, kind of look at what we're doing and re-tackle the show format. So they're actually going to get, and here's another thing that they're doing. They're paying for this show. This is another content producer paying another content producer to produce a show exclusively for their channel.
Nice.
This is content producers helping each other grow, stabilize, and make a living out of this. So it's really amazing what they're doing, what Liam and Winters is doing. But we have to reinvent ourselves, and they're going to pay for and get an exclusive show, and it's got to be different for 40K and 40M. They originally just asked, like, hey, just do 40K and 40M for us, and we're like, I don't think that's going to be right for the audience. Yeah. And we don't want to just have two versions of our show kind of existing in the world. If we're going to do a show, we want a compelling reason why people are going to go to DZTV to sign up and watch the show that we're producing for you. So we've had to, again, go back to the drawing board, not rest on our laurels, have to like, oh my God, all the work that we've had to do. Because it's not easy to come up with a new show concept. So, but Nick's done an amazing job. JT's done an amazing, the team at Play On has done an absolutely amazing job creating kind of a variant of 40K and 40M with some real massive twists and turns and a different feel altogether.
Nice. And it's like you said, you just don't want to do the exact same clone copy because like you said, it's like, why would I want to go over there and watch it when I can just stay where I am right now and watching it? Like you said, you want to get that people being like, oh, what are they going to do different now? And like you said, it definitely takes a huge amount of work because, like I said, from day one, just doing on Play On, it's like you guys have had to evolve how much now, and it's now to do another evolution to do something completely different, like not 100% different, but again, something much more different that's not also in the path of what you guys were already trying to do different on your own channel. So no, I can definitely understand the amount of work that definitely goes into something like that.
Yeah, we're excited for it. It's a different look. It's a different feel. I think the first episode's going to be up on our YouTube channel, so people get to check that out. And then there'll be a, I think there's a deal for Patreons to get a deal through DZTV. I'd have to check that to be sure. Tack would know the details on that. But there's, yeah, it's a pretty cool little concept that we're doing. And man, it's a blast. It's an absolute riot.
Nice.
I had a lot of fun recording stuff for this.
Yeah, they've like Liam and Winters are really great to work with. They're open to our ideas, they're open to working with us, and they're open to their primary goal is also to grow the Warhammer community.
Mm-hmm.
Because our goals align, the decisions become real simple, right? If we put an idea down and it helps further that cause, really good chance it's just going to pass. Right? That's what working with like-minded people, someone that has a shared mission or values set does. So 4 of the episodes will appear on our YouTube. So our audience does get a glimpse of the whole 12-part series, 12 episode series. But the whole story will exist at DZTV, at Deployment Zone Television.
So essentially, to get the whole entire story, you will have to be able to go to theirs. It's almost like, say, going back to like mini wargaming, how they have the Vault. They'll do a narrative campaign. You get first episode for free, but if you want to see the rest of the story, you have to go on. And to be honest, it's smart. Like giving the people that first episode is what's going to draw them into it. And like myself, like especially when it comes to narrative and when you start seeing these different type of styles, like you want to see what happens next, and you're going to carry on into it. So like, I'm super excited to see this project through you guys.
And it's not just our stuff that you're going to get to see. You're going to see all the other cool stuff they've got going on in Deployment Zone Television as well. They've got quite a few pieces that they're putting together. So
nice.
It's not just our stuff. It's all their stuff too, which is pretty cool.
It's a network of content producers over there already. And what this project with us will lead to, hopefully, is more content producers joining that network, kind of like a Netflix of Warhammer or Netflix of tabletop gaming. And at the end of the day, the time that is spent working on these projects is massive. And so they take away either from your personal life, or they need to start to work themselves into your work life. They need to be your primary revenue if you're going to spend all that time with it, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I know JT the other night was saying that you guys put in about 150 hours post-production on an episode or something. Is
it 100? I don't even want to think about that number.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty much everything. That's the total man hours that goes into an episode. Nick's got his edits down to about 80 hours, Tack, give or take.
Wow.
No, Nick's at 40, so half of that. I think what happens is, and what people don't realize is Nick is either a primary editor sometimes, or he's a lead editor. And if he's lead editor, what he's doing is he's reviewing content. And when you're reviewing a show, it takes the full length of the show to review it. So let's say you're reviewing a 40-minute show, but you're making notations, you're marking down what to do, what's right, what's wrong with the story. You basically double that time. So every time we review a show, even I have to do a review, and JT, you've had to do reviews, right?
Yeah.
That's typically 2 hours per person reviewing a show to get the quality to where we need it to be. So that's 6 hours right there per review. Let's say a show gets reviewed 3 times.
Oof.
Well, now we're at 18 hours of simply review.
Just review. Yeah.
And then, there's the edit on top of that, like the primary editor that's working on that show. There's the graphics package that goes into it. There's all the people that are part of a crew. Now, with COVID, we've minimized our crews quite a bit to keep the studio as safe as possible when we're doing these things. But, you still have, like, at minimum, I think, 3 people minimum a shoot, right? So...
And it's a 6 to 8 hour shoot, depending.
Yeah, depending. Right. Yeah. And then there's the cinematic.
You can see how it adds up, right?
And it's little things like that you don't really think of. Like whenever Brian threw that number at me, I'm just like, but how? But now that you're breaking it down literally like that, I'm just like, oh, Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And like I said, especially when you got multiple people working on the project, and a lot of times multiple people could be working on the same thing. And if you're all working on that same amount of hours, like it doesn't take long at all to add up. Like it is ridiculous to see the amount of time. And a lot of people don't realize that. They're like, oh, well, I mean, yeah, the production is high, but I mean, can't take them that long. It's like, no, it's like, yeah, it does. Like anything, like even just me sitting here recording a podcast, editing, same thing. When I go to review it, I have to listen to the whole entire podcast to make sure nothing was screwed up. Is the audio intact? This and that. So not only did it take me an hour, hour and a half to record it, well, now it's going to take me another hour and a half to listen to it, not including any of the editing. By the time I get it all rendered and up to date, by the time I upload it, a podcast could take me up to about 4 to 5 hours. And it's like,
Least, yeah.
that's the scary part. Like when we keep talking about battle reports, this and that, we're like, it's like we know frankly what we're getting into, and that's why we love getting this information from other people, because like I said, we don't want to go into something with half-ass expectations, and then when reality slaps you in the face and you're like, oh, it's like
Well, and most of the audience gets it now. I think YouTube has come a long way where it's not just free content for free content's sake. I think you grow fan bases that truly believe in what you do, and will throw you a little bit. Will either support you by simply watching your content as much as they can and not skipping the ads. That is a absolute show of support. Or they'll hit your Patreon and kind of give you some money there, or they'll be okay with you being sponsored, or they'll be okay with you selling a show to another network and then having to go join that network to watch something. It's kind of in the bigger sphere of things. There's Netflix, there's Disney Plus, there's Crave, there's all those ones that, and multiple people, myself included, probably have more than one subscription. We have several, because we follow or we're fans of a particular network or a particular studio, right?
Yeah.
And that's what's happening here. I think Diza TV is making way for this idea that there are going to be networks that are focused on somebody's love, passion, and hobby. So, and every now and then we do have to answer the question, why isn't this free, and why can't everyone access our content? And we just have to be frank with them, going, at the end of the day, we need to pay our editors, we need to pay ourselves for the 150 hours it takes to produce a single episode.
Yeah, exactly.
I got 5 kids to feed. I'm kidding.
I've got the 5 of you to feed, so yeah.
Oh yeah, we spend more money on catering than we do on anything else, for crying out loud.
Coffee. We've got a coffee budget.
You hear that, Dan? Buying me pizza.
But no, I love the idea of, like you said, just different people coming together to make a network. And in our area, I kind of go back to like how we kind of started. It was the same thing. It's like areas that are only like 2-3 hours away from each other, like we don't really interact a whole lot besides like a tournament here and there. So when we made Bolters and Heretics, that was the first idea when the 4 of us came together, was we want to take the Maritimes as a whole, bring it together and start from there. So bring the local areas like through podcasts and be like, do tournament coverage. And then of course COVID happened, so we haven't been able to cover much. But just to have people listening be like, oh, there is stuff going on in my area. Oh, there is stuff going on here. And then when you can bring more people together, it gives more opportunity. And like you said, for you guys, like the opportunity now to work with these other areas to make even more like content. And it keeps growing and growing, and the audiences get bigger and bigger because they start seeing all these new things that they've never seen before, because they've only been watching this one thing, or they've been only talking to these couple of people. But when you start cross-platforming everything and you start talking to more people and you start experimenting with battle reports and guests with podcasts and stuff like that, like it just makes it that much more. Like when we started reaching out to guests and like yourself, is just like, just to get to know these experiences not only helps people listening, but like this helps us as like a little gaming community here in our area to grow even more. And it gives us those goals, being like, well, like, look, these guys did this. Like, you give it the hard work, this and that, like nothing's going to come for free. And as long as you're willing to put the effort, you're willing to take the time to talk to people and get things to grow, like you're always going to see results. And so I love hearing stories like this on how the collaborations are working really well, and you're seeing this next step in a goal. And then it gets you thinking, it's like, well, holy crap, like what's going to be the next goal? Like what else can we see from this? And it gets you so excited about this hobby of Warhammer. I love it.
It is exciting for sure.
It is. And JT, were you on Discord last night or this morning?
I kind of muted it.
Our Discord can get a lot. But so we've got a Discord for patrons, right? And so one of the benefits of being over there is we are growing a community there. But it was funny because we've recently done something with mini wargaming, right? And mini wargaming, as we know, is they are the guys. They're the legends. They're one of the Dave's gonna hate that I say this, but grandfathers of like kind of the battle report scene.
I can see Dave now, just like, oh.
And so in our world, growing up with Warhammer 40,000, growing up consuming kind of YouTube and battle reports, like they're the big guys. Like everyone knows them. Everyone must know them. And we realized with our audience, as GT said, like we are aimed at new gamers, introducing people to the hobby. So earlier on Discord, there was somebody that literally said, "Where did you find this other Nick who could match Nick's energy?" And he was referring to Dave.
Yeah, I saw that.
Right, and so it's a guy that doesn't know who Mini Wargaming Dave is, and so what's interesting is it shows how big this community can really get. There's somebody out there that doesn't know who the basically the guy with the biggest sub on YouTube is. And
they've got what, 350,000?
They double us at 350,000, right? So, but they've been around for a really long time, and they deserve that number. They do great content. But now we get to take our smaller audience. Well, it's not that much smaller, but we get to take our audience, these new gamers, and introduce them to mini wargaming. Right? It's kind of this circle of support and sharing that us as content producers can do for each other. That's really amazing. So.
No, definitely. I love seeing it. And like I said, like when we start talking to people and like I'll even get names thrown at me and be like, again, how have I not heard about these people? And then you go watching and you're like, okay, well, I remember hearing about them through this and through that. Because like myself, like when I first got into the hobby, that's the first thing I seen is mini wargaming. You see frontline gaming, and you get tabletop tactics, and you start watching all of them, and then you see the connections between and stuff like that. But like you said, for somebody going into the hobby brand new, that's still just getting into it, you're not going to know all these big names if you didn't go like diving deep enough into the world of YouTube and Warhammer, and especially with the amount of content creators there are now, it's like you just type in Warhammer, and it's just list upon list upon lists. And of course, you're always going to have your top 3, top 4 always at the very top. But like I said, maybe it's an army that you don't see very much on that channel. Because like I know for myself, like Dark Eldar, I got my 7th edition codex. I went in, I typed in Dark Eldar, and first that popped up was Scary. And so, like I said, I jumped on him. I watched it. Like I probably binged watched almost every video he has in a weekend. I did not sleep. I was looking at the codex. And to me, I'm like he's the Drukhari guy.
I watched JT versus the Orcs there from 40 and 30. I watched that one countless times when I was learning the Drukhari army just to see how he played it.
Yeah. But that's the thing, though. Then I can go to somebody else, be like, oh, did you guys see the last episode that Scary put against this? And they're like, who? And in my head, I'm like, how do you not know him? But again, if you don't play Dark Eldar Drukhari, you might not go specifically looking for him. So I can definitely understand how some people might not know of different organizations and different channels just because it might not be that army you're playing.
Yeah, it's a big community out there, that's for sure, and there's room for everybody.
So next part I have, and like part of me was super happy to see that your list, JT, made it to the end. But the Nopin, run me through the process of that, like, because we had the Falcon on for an episode for New Year's Eve, and it was right before, or I think the announcement had just happened like 2 days before, so we had like a good conversation about the Nopin, and he was running names and YouTube channels that were running, and like I got so excited. So when I started watching it, and then I seen you guys, like, and I seen the Drukhari, I'm like, all right, let's go. Like I've been following every game, and then like again back to Scar, he's like, all right, we got some Drukhari here, and to see your list make it to the top table, I'm just like, oh man, like run me through the first conversation, if it was either through Pete or if it was through Paul, because I know there's a couple of them that were kind of reaching out. But like, so how did this become that you guys were able to take part of something so big? Because it's, like I said, first time you ever see something like this. And unfortunately, I really hate to say it, but like this is might be the only way we're going to see tournaments on a large scale right now until things get better. So how did it feel, and what was the thought process being able to take part in the first time ever tournament like this, I guess?
Well, it was interesting because Peter actually reached out to us, and he asked us, would you like to be a part of it? Originally, we as a team had thought, is there something that we can do to help out Frontline Gaming, because they've been big supporters of us, and we wanted to do something for them and see if we could help them somehow. And then Peter reached out and messaged me one day and said, hey, would you want to be part of this? And I'm like, oh, cool, and pitched it to the team, and we're like, yep, let's do it. So that's really how it started. Do you want to play? Yes, we do. That was it. And that was it. So we talked about what we needed, and they wanted 2 players from our channel, and they wanted us to build a list that we would take to the Las Vegas Open. So Steve and I were tapped to play, and Steve built his Ultramarine list, and I built my Dark Eldar list. Tournament style list, which is not something we typically play on the channel. We have a few times, but typically we lean to a little bit more fun units people don't necessarily get to see all the time. Stuff that's
you
a
had
little
mandrakes in your list, eh?
Oh yeah.
Oh, but
Yeah,
mandrakes,
mandrakes are
there's 20 of
magic,
them.
man.
They're always been in my list.
Mandrakes are magic, man. Absolute magic.
So
So I built my list, and Steve built his list, and we knew we were going to play round 1. We had an idea of who we were going to face round 2. What Peter actually did, Mr. the Falcon Colosimo, he took everybody's lists and he said, okay, who's got what and what can you field? And this is how we're going to pare everybody down. So we were able to field the Salamanders list pretty easily. We were able to field TJ's list with just borrowing from a few friends. And we were able to kind of get everything we needed to play. And okay, this is your bracket, and this is what's going to happen. So we kind of knew what the lists were. There wasn't a lot of time to see them get played, but we knew what was coming. So round 1, Steve and I go toe to toe, and I was fortunate. I came out on top. Maybe a couple of missteps on secondaries on his part definitely helped me, but the change to scoring and going last was absolutely massive. Because I was able to score at the bottom of the turn, and really by turn 3, I figured I had a really good shot at it, and by turn 4, I figured I'd had it. At the top of my 5, I think I asked for a score check just to see where we're at. And it's funny, I've said this before, you can watch Steve's face kind of drop when he realizes that I'm actually ahead and I'm probably going to win this, simply because I was able to stay away from him long enough. I mean, I spent more command points on Fire and Fade than I think I did on anything else, but it kept my Reapers out of his line of sight. And the moment he could poke his head out, my list was designed, for the listeners who aren't familiar with it, I'll run through it real quick. It was the Dark Eldar Triple Patrol. It was Cabal of the Blackheart with the Court of the Archon, Lamian, and 2 Medusa, because I love my Medusa models, and a squad of Cabalites with 2 Ravagers, all with Dizzies. And then the Riddle Living Muse on the Archon, so he rerolls 1s to hit for the Ravagers and rerolls 1s to wound. Then it was 2 Master of Mutagens Dark Technomancer patrols. Both Homunculi had Hex Rifles. There were 5 squads of Racks, all with Hex Rifles. So I could overcharge my shooting and do some serious mortal wound damage and snipe out some characters. All of my Venoms could overcharge as well, and any 6s to hit were automatically wounding. But the real magic, I think, that was in my list was the combination of the 3 members of the Court of the Archon, and then the 2 squads of Scourges with blasters, because they dropped to 10 points each, and 2 squads of Mandrakes. They were really magic. Couple that with Reapers in Dark Technomancers that can overcharge shooting and go to D3 plus 4 damage. Absolutely vicious. Absolutely vicious. So the list was really designed to play hide and seek, and if you poked your head out or tried to cross an open space, you'd just get shot to heck. And that's what I did to Steve. I was able to control the board as much as I could. I cleared a flank, and I held it and made him come get me. And then I was fortunate to be able to pull it off. It was a very close game. It could have gone either way, but that change to the bottom turn scoring was huge. And then round 2 was against TJ Lanigan's incredibly complex demon list, which is a really tough list to play. Steve had less than half an hour to get used to playing it.
That's because when they were playing that initial list, it was pretty much at the same time you guys were playing, so you didn't really get a chance to...
They played it right before we got to the studio. And I mean, I kind of watched part of it before I left. And I saw how TJ was playing it. I'm like, okay, well, he's going to stay in the back. I mean, because I honestly had talked to TJ during the week, and I thought I would be playing it. I thought the Ultramarine list was going to beat my Dark Eldar list. I mean, I bet on myself in the pool they had going, but of course you do because you want to. And I was motivated because Goonhammer said that Ultramarines are going to take this no matter what. I'm like, oh man, they probably should have done that.
Start shaking your finger at them.
Yeah, don't be doing that, boys. But then I really thought I'd be playing TJ's list. But what people fail to realize, and people gave Steve a lot of guff for this, and it was really unfair. Steve ended up going first again, so I had bottom turn, and I deployed 2 Venoms with racks and 2 Venoms with racks on the top and bottom of the table, and I had both of those 2 objectives covered. I was going to out obsec him. If he didn't bring his monsters forward, my damage to weapons ignore the damage reduction on Nurglings, so I'm going to chew through them, and he's not going to have any obsec left. So it was a real challenge for him because again, hammer and anvil. So with a 16-inch move on my vehicles and 36-inch range, I'm hitting you. Like he's not going to be able to hide. I mean, even TJ would have had a hard time playing against it. I would not have scored 92 points against somebody who is that familiar with that list. But Steve did what he thought he could. He's played Bash Brothers before. He put stuff forward and thought, well, you're going to have to try to kill me. But the problem is my Venoms alone, mathematically, with Master of Mutagens and with Dark Technomancers, it doesn't matter what toughness anything is because I wound on 4s.
Yeah.
And even with a 3-up save, 5 Venoms in Dark Technomancers mathematically kill Magnus.
Yeah.
They do 18 wounds. He takes 9 unsaved, and he takes 18 wounds, and he dies. People don't realize that. They don't see it because you don't see these kind of matchups happen. Because typically in a tournament, the Dark Eldar player would have come up against something that would have smashed it, or the Demon player would have just trounced everybody to get max points for 4 turns, and 4 rounds. You never would see that matchup.
Yeah.
So it's cool about the way the LV No Open works because the lists go forward, so it skews that a little bit. So I was able to really take advantage of poison against those big monsters in that match.
Going in on that, did you guys have to talk to the other guys that were playing your list that went forward to kind of tell them how you would play it against their new matchups, or?
No, it wasn't. It really wasn't discussed. I mean, I talked to in the next round. I had messaged Brian and gave him some ideas because Brian Pullen from Tabletop Titans then played my list and won it with it. And we talked a little bit about it to give him some ideas of how it works and what's available to him. And then that was about it. I know Steve talked to TJ right before, and TJ said, well, just play defensive and try to move block him. The problem, you can't move block and range block with somebody who flies. Yeah. And what I mean by range blocking is his concept was, well, if he's got a 24-inch range, you put your Nurglings at 23 or 24, and that way they're 23 inches forward. You can't move past them. You won't be able to shoot my big target because you'll have to be in combat with the Nurglings to shoot them. And it makes a lot of sense. But when you ignore intervening models and just fly over top of them, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And there's so many of them that it doesn't matter. So it's a really, really tough matchup there. But Brian, probably the greatest Vect ever used on camera in round 3 to stop a squad of Repentia from being able to advance and charge onto a center objective. Now, he didn't actually need them to win it, need that Vect, but it was so bloody dramatic and wonderful. I mean, I had just had knee surgery weeks before, and I'm hopping up and down and I'm shouting at the computer. My wife came in like 6 times. She's like, "What are you calling for me? What's going on?" I'm like, "No, you wouldn't believe what just happened." I was so incredibly excited to see it. And then it goes to the finals, and I got Nick Nanavati playing it. And I'm like, this is going to be pretty cool. But stupid lone custode, man. One custode that he couldn't kill. Had he killed that custode, it doesn't go on to threaten the top corner. He can get around that corner. He can break it, and then he can push and threaten. And that really, the one custode living and making that leadership, that's the only one. That won the game. That won the game and put the game away at that point. But what a run for a quote bottom tier codex. You know, we get a lot of grief in competitive stuff because Dark Eldar aren't that competitive. And they really can be. I mean, yeah, they're wet paper airplanes, but they can't play like Marines. They can't play like Death Guard. They can't play like Necron. You have to be cagey. And the way my list was designed and built was from the back forward. So I want to score secondaries, and then I want to stop my opponent from scoring primaries. And that's what it does. That's exactly what it did, and what it did the entire tournament. And honestly, as much as it was a great Dark Eldar list, it was a great 9th edition list. Yeah. And it really forced opponents to have to deal with the multiple threats that were coming in. So absolutely loved it.
No, Like I said, it was definitely great to see, and like I said, I'm pumped to see if they do something else with this, and I would love to see how it can evolve from this, because obviously it was a learning curve. It was the first time you do
It,
anything like this, and I even talked to Pete afterwards, and that's what he said. Like obviously he learned a lot, so if this ever does happen again, they'll know what to do to like either make it a lot easier, and or like I said, give you guys a chance to be like see a recap of the video like beforehand, because like you said, like you may have played that list once or you may have seen it played once, but it makes a world of a difference if it's not a list that you're familiar with, because like you said, like you can go into a tournament and it's like, oh, this list won every match, but if you don't fully know the full potential of the list, what stratagems to use, which this and that, like you can get table turned too. You're like, well, how?
yeah,
So,
the concept of the net list, right?
mhm,
And people show up with the latest and greatest and then have no idea how to play it. Well, they get
exactly.
spanked. And they think that all this list is crap. Well, no, you just didn't know how it worked. And honestly, TJ's list is incredibly complex, and nobody can play it like him.
Hmm.
Which I don't know if that's a bad thing in a setup like this. I'm looking forward to when they do it again. There's rumor that late summer that this is going to happen again. And there's talk about having the players. We're going to make sure that nobody can play their list twice, because both Tank and I were at an advantage because we both got to play our lists twice.
Yeah.
And Tank's list, of course, is the one that went to the final. So there was definitely an advantage there for sure.
Hmm.
That being said, the concept is going to be to have the player who built the list available for the player playing it,
Yeah.
so that if they have questions, they can answer them. I was on stream for both of the games, and I made sure not to give any tactical advice because that's not what this event's about. But if somebody was playing a rule wrong, because obviously we don't know all the rules, it's an incredibly complex game.
Exactly.
No, the Archon doesn't have a husk blade. He's got a power sword because I couldn't afford it. like little things
That
like
5 points
right?
could not make me go. But yeah.
Blast pistols are 6-inch range, not 12-inch range like Eldar fusion pistols. We don't get
Ah,
those. We're not cool enough.
that always makes me
Stuff.
sad. It's like you're
Oh,
seven
it makes
inches
me
out.
so sad
Well,
too, man.
and I think like
Useless
playing
5
Dark
points.
Elder, that's why I love it. Like you were saying, like everybody's like, oh, well, they're bottom tier army, blah blah blah. And when you turn around and you kick their ass, and you're like, but how did you do that? I'm just like, I'm bottom tier. Just make it
Yep.
work.
I'm magic, baby. It's all
Uh,
magic. Smoke and mirrors.
like when you were not
I
looking, I moved that model when you weren't there. That's how.
Exactly. Alley-oop.
All right. Well, what we'll do here before we wrap the episode up, this is something that we've never done yet, but it was kind of the first time that we've actually like pre-told people that like, hey, we have these guys coming on. If you have any questions, what would you like to ask? So if you guys have a couple seconds, we'll just kind of go through some of the Facebook and Discord messages. We
Yeah,
didn't
for
get a
sure.
whole lot, except for one of our other co-guys, Kier. He sent me 27 messages, so we'll go through at least a couple of those ones. But no, like I said, we'll go through a couple here. So
Do you want me to
first one
do the
right.
Discord question first, or?
Well, I got the Facebook message here, so I'll start up on this one, and I think this one's gonna be more for TAC. But like again, if you know for yourself, JT, if you want to weigh in, but this question is actually from Nick Steves, and he wants thoughts on. And I'm sorry if I butcher these names because I don't play AdMech, but Pertaxi and Cerberus.
Taraxi and Cerberus.
There we go. You know what I'm talking about.
The narrator knows how to
yeah,
say.
so like I said, he wants your thoughts on these guys.
Well, I mean, isn't that the main reason I keep you around, JT, so that you can say things I can't pronounce?
Exactly. What's my Daedalodudus? You mean Daedalosus? Yeah. What's his weapon? Yeah, that's exactly it.
Oh, this kind of sounds like our episodes. Like I like we have to start saying, because I screw up so many words that I'm gonna have to start doing like the word of Dan. Like, yeah, I'm not even gonna go there, but yeah.
So 9th edition is an objective game.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, it's very much about board control. It's very much about threatening where you need to, or grabbing an objective at all costs when you need to. So AdMech have suffered from kind of slow moving units, or units that can't reach where you want them to go. So having the Taraxi and having the Cerberus, I think I put them in a lot of my lists. They do work, and you have to be okay with them not doing the work you think they're going to do. If you think they're going to kill something and take that objective, or you think they're going to clear a bunch of infantry and your dice fail you, then you're in for a world of hurt, right?
Mhm.
So you've got to be okay with them. Well, now it's like, well, what secondaries you've taken? All of a sudden, you have engage on all fronts available to you with the Cerberus and Traxi. or you have a far objective that's available to you if you want to pressure somebody with those units to get onto it at least once or twice to score. But think about how you're using them, and if you think about it, then they may be a good choice for your list.
I like the Taraxi going back up in the air because that's their special ability to actually leave the board, and I like them with the flamer, the sterilizer, I think, because if you have them pop off the board and then show up on turn 4, you can clear an opponent's objective really quick, because typically by turn 4 or turn 5, there's not a lot left on the board. If you need them to come back sooner, you can, but to have Taraxi leave the table and then come back on the 4th turn and clear off an opponent's objective, suddenly they're not scoring anything on their last turn, and that can be absolutely game-changing. That could be a 5-point, 10-point swing right there. So they're absolutely wonderful for something like that. I really dig that aspect of them. They're pretty soft, though. They're pretty squishy. I like the Taraxi for that. They're kind of what Scourges wish they could be.
And they're also great for, I think, me and JT have talked about this a lot. You can win and lose games in the deployment phase.
Yes.
Absolutely. And the Taraxi allow you to drop a unit onto the table, seg somebody out, and then put them back in the air if you so choose. Right? It gives you one extra placement for free to see what your opponent's going to do.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm hoping for in the Dark Eldar Codex, is that we get some kind of redeployment to try and psych somebody out, kind of like that.
Yeah, Scourges with that would make a lot of sense. Or Mandrakes, it would be really cool, even for a command point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. If you want to go, Brian, on Discord and grab the question from there.
One of the guys on our Discord, Wilco Max, he's a guy from Fredericton here in New Brunswick. He wants to know your thoughts on mono faction versus soup in 9th edition, because with the edition rule set, is soup still a viable option for some factions?
I'm on record, and I'll say it again. I hate the term soup. I really do. I use it. I try not to.
All right, let's go with chowder.
Chowder. Say it. Chowder. I hate the term soup because it's a term that gets thrown around a lot, and not everybody knows exactly what it means. So the concept of it was that, if you play Eldari, did you have Eldar with Harlequins? Did you have Eldar with Dark Eldar? And then they called that soup. It's really only something that is specific to an ITC, to the independent tournament circuit, because it's your faction listing is, are you Eldar or are you Craft World? If you're pure Craft World, if not, you're Eldar, which means you're soup somehow. And
I am Dark Harlequins.
Yeah, exactly. Look at the LV No Open. You had Sisters and you had Custodes. So technically that's an Imperial soup, which is full of soy calf and recalf and what is it, corpse paste? Isn't that what they make it? Yeah. So technically that's a soup list, and it won that tournament. And really a big part of that is because Sisters are so good at trading up their value. I mean, they kill so much more than they're actually worth. But he did that work with all of his Custodes, just tanking #ShieldWall, tanking a ton of firepower. And it's, so is it viable? I think it probably is. I don't personally prefer to do that. I will sometimes for fun, because it can be neat to do a multi-faction force, but it really depends on your play style. I've seen some pretty cool guard concepts and guard marine concepts and stuff, but it's, as long as your list is scoring points every turn, however you can manage to do that, absolutely works.
Nice. And for you, Tack, do you have input for that one? Or is it pretty much what JT was saying?
I'm never the person to net list or stay on top of the meta at all. I play what's fun. So I think just play what's fun. Like, if you want to see a soup list, quote unquote, on the table because you figured out a combo that you really want to do that would be fun for you to play, I'd say go for it, right?
Yeah. No, perfect. Was there any more on Discord? I think it was just the one, right, Ryan?
It was just the one that we got on Discord.
So another one here. So like I said, we're going to jump to Kier's 27 questions, but I am going to break them down, save you guys a little bit of time. But one that he had posted on Facebook was thoughts on fully payload manticores.
Yeah, they do a lot of damage. They're pretty good. The problem is it become a big target. I like full payload on manticores and full payload on basilisks is pretty good. Flat 3 on the basilisk.
We just saw one on them. channel.
We just recorded an episode that there might be some on the channel. Yes, we did.
So I'm kind of going through here just to kind of see. And I guess it's kind of one of those things with this question and kind of a lot of people seen, but the coping with COVID. How have you found that overall as a thing for you guys? Like, obviously, it's probably put you behind. Is it as much as you guys might have thought, or were you able to maintain it as much as you could, I guess?
It sucks.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to put it.
Point blank, that was the thought that was in my head. I'm like, I know what he's gonna say, but
Yeah, Tack alluded to it earlier. We've minimized our crew on set because we're a business technically, so we have different rules that we're allowed to follow. But even so, we are so careful. We are so incredibly careful. We have hand sanitizer all over the place. We sanitize our dice. Everybody wears masks unless we're on camera and we're filming, and then we're not. Because you can't really hear somebody and you can't really see their reactions. So the two players, and if they're not comfortable with it, then we don't do it. We have what's it called, a thermometer to make sure everybody's okay. We do a COVID test. We do the questionnaire before we play. And then from a personal perspective, I pretty much self-isolate like you wouldn't believe. Yeah, my son has to go to school, but he has to follow all the rules there. My wife actually works in the healthcare field, so she has to follow all of those rules. In addition, I'm immunocompromised, so I have to be really, really careful. And I'm also recovering from major surgery. So these are issues and concerns that I have that I am super duper careful about it. But our studio, we keep it as 100%, I would call it 150% COVID compliant.
Okay.
We are absolutely fanatical about making sure that we follow all the rules. Tack, what would you think?
So I think what's difficult, and more so than anything else, I think there's a call for compassion and understanding while we're trying to deal with COVID, right?
Yeah.
Because rules and regulations and recommendations are that. They're not who is right or wrong. In many instances, right and wrong, I think something as challenging as COVID is going to be kind of a personal belief, right? Do you believe the regulation is right? Do you believe the regulation is wrong? So I don't want to discount the people that struggle with what we do because we follow regulation. They may see the regulations not tight enough, may not be comfortable for them, and I just want to say that that's okay. We're not here to say what is right and wrong about what we do for COVID. I can say, same as JT, we take all the precautions that we do while still making the choice to continue our business. Right? I think that's a big thing. It's like we've made a choice to continue our business, and we have to make choices on how we do that. And then within those choices, then make the efforts to be as safe as possible. So, but it's not going to be perfect, and we are not going to be liked by everybody for the choices that we make, because it's tough. Like I on the one hand, I think a lot of fans and players of this game, they get their joy maybe through us because they're not able to play themselves, and or they may not be able to access like the broader community. They're only playing with like brother or somebody within their household. So on the one hand, I think we bring that joy and we bring that accessibility to them. On the other hand, though, some people may say it's wrong to keep playing. Like, obviously, what we're doing is we're playing a game, and that's not essential in the current world climate, right? So some people may say, hey, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't bring on guests. You shouldn't extend your bubble. You shouldn't be doing these things. And I just want to say, I can't for 100% of surety say we're right. I'm not going to say that we're wrong. I don't know what the answer is. And I think the answer is personal.
Yeah. No, and I 100% agree with what you're saying. It's like I said, you're never going to make 100% of people happy with any decision that is made. But like you said, like it's a business. You don't want to just stop. You need to be able to do what you're doing. And like I said, as long as you're following the proper protocols and as long as you're doing it as safe as can be, it should be something that people should be able to respect, take a step back and be like, it's like, this is your job. Like, you're doing the right protocols. You're doing what needs to be. It's not like you guys are just out there with any willy-nilly person coming in, no mask, no nothing, being like, oh, screw it, I don't care. It's like, no, like you guys have made it up front. It's like, we are following all proper protocols, this and that. So if somebody cannot respect that on a personal level, it's like just take a step back, take a breather, and be like, just think about it. Are you doing this for your job? If you are, well, these guys are doing this for their job. So I mean, I completely get what you're saying.
Yeah, since the Paul incident, there's a strict no willy-nilly policy in studio. Ooh, uncomfortable silence on that joke.
just it's like, do we reply? Do we say something? Like and what we'll do with the last question, I'll kind of just merge a couple in because they can kind of fit in, is essentially this could be play on, this could be at a local tournament, this could be at a major tournament. But to each of you guys, what's one of the most memorable moments that you guys have had? And what would be one of the funniest moments you've ever had? Like this could even be the same moment, because like I've had a lot of people being like, this was the greatest thing in the world, but it happened because of this. But so like I said, it's kind of a two-parter, and yeah.
Tax, you know what yours is?
How do you even start with that question? Like how do you
I'm trying to condense questions. I'm trying to save you guys a little bit of time.
Yeah, I mean, I think me and JT probably have a massive repertoire of favorite moments.
Mhm.
That's, I think the problem. So trying to dig in and figure out which one's like the highlight.
Yeah. Or I
Yeah,
mean,
like-
hey, by all means, like if you have a second, you want to talk about a couple of them, we're all ears.
I remember playing TAC at a tournament and his war convocation list, and I had a Wraith Knight, and I went first and killed his Imperial Knight. All right, so 2 D cannons. Okay,
right.
hit.
It's-
Roll
yeah.
a wound. 6/6. Uh-oh. Back in 7th edition with hull points. You remember that one, TAC?
Sure.
That was round 2.
That was another round 2 in 7th edition.
It
You know
was, yeah.
What I would love for our audience, like the play on audience, to get is really kind of more of the backstory, more of the rivalries that happen within our studio,
Mhm.
right? Because we were all players and we were all tournament goers before we decided to form Play On.
Yeah.
So when I get to the table with Steven, people don't understand the entire history around what's happened in me and Steven's games. And we've said this a little bit on like the channel, but we have the weirdest games. I don't think I've ever played a normal game with Steven. Back in 7th edition, he decided to run a vehicle list, and he parked them behind a mountain. And I was a new player, so I didn't know what I was doing. I hit the front vehicle with a grav cannon, and I'm like, I rolled a 6. What does that mean? Oh, it's immobilized. What does that mean for all the vehicles behind it? They're not going anywhere. Oh, so what does that mean for the game? I don't know. And Steven at a tournament has beat me. I think he beat me by a point, where he was nearly tabled, and he did not kill a single unit in my army. Not a single. He killed a couple models, but he didn't manage to kill a single unit. He only had drop pods left on the table, and he won the game.
Oh, jeez.
Battle Company for the win, yeah.
Battle Company versus I think it was War Convocation.
I think it was, yeah.
So
2 broken formations facing each other.
with a very broken result, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then since then it's been
I think my favorite moment ever, I shared this with the Real Space Raiders podcast, but you guys are Drukhari players. You'll appreciate this. Playing in the Wounded Warriors tournament in Victoria. Opponent was running a Zinch list, and he had Magnus, and Magnus failed the charge and was left standing out there in with like 3 wounds left or something. I couldn't kill him in the first turn, and I'm like, oh, I'm in trouble. Magnus is mid-table. Crap, what do I do? I have all this other stuff I need to shoot at. Oh, I know what I'm going to do. So my homunculus moved in close, and I spent 2 command points on the Crucible of Malediction, and there's Magnus with 2 wounds. I roll, and on a 4-up, he takes D3 mortals. I roll a 4, I roll a 3, and the Dark Eldar player killed the most powerful psyker in the galaxy in his own psychic phase. I killed Magnus in the psychic phase.
Oh man.
I did a lap. I did a lap around the hall. I was absolutely. I thought it was. I felt so bad. It was such an unsportsmanlike thing to do. I apologize profusely, but I'm like, I'm Dark Eldar. I don't have psychers. I just killed Magnus in the psychic phase. Like, how does that happen? Like, it shouldn't happen. But it's one of those moments where I can't. I'm never going to touch this. That's like a highlight reel moment. Like
Oh my
that's
god.
I don't even need to play anymore. I can quit. Like that's it.
It's like
I
I
killed
can
Magnus in
see
the
the
psychic
good
phase.
game.
Yeah, I'm good.
Oh.
I'm done. That was probably my most amazing moment of all time.
Oh. And I'm picturing like thematically, it's just like in real world, just slaps Magnus and just like cripples him and be like, you stay down.
Yeah, it's just opens a little box and the little thing goes boo, and he goes bah, and he just falls over dead.
Heart attack, just done.
You know what you did wrong, Magnus? Exactly.
Oh.
Oh, you went there.
Oh, that was a fun moment. But I've had some amazing moments too. I remember playing in 7th edition and playing back in the old ITC scoring where it was 11-0.
Mhm.
You had like 4, 4, and 3, if you guys remember that. You had 4 primary, 4 something else, 4 for kills, 4 for objectives, and then 3 for the secondaries for the missions. So it
Okay.
was a max 11 or 11 point total. And playing against a player who was running an Eldar netless, and he had the Void Shield generator, he had the Hornets, he had all the Wraith Knight, he had all the crap, and I'm like, oh great. Deployed, and he sees the initiative on me, and I'm like, oh fantastic. So this is when the warp spiders could do their jump, shoot, jump garbage. You'd target them and they'd run away.
I hated that.
It was so egregious to play against, and it was a net list, and his stuff wasn't even built properly. And I'm like, oh, all right, well, here we go. This could be fun. He seizes the initiative. I weather his first storm, and then I just played my absolute ass off,
Mm.
and I ended up beating him 11-0.
Wow.
Eldar net list, my Dark Eldar, and I think it was Dark Eldar with Eldar,
Mhm.
against his net list, and I beat him 11-0 after he sees the initiative on me. I was just, there were so many moments in that game where I made what you'd call wrinkle brain plays that I just went, where did that come from? How did I know to do that? And it was one of those comebacks that made me feel really, really good. It was my first LVO, if I remember right, too, and it was just an amazing, amazing tournament.
Nice. No, I definitely love hearing stuff like that when it comes, like I said, especially from Dark Eldar, and like you said earlier yourself, JT, and everybody's like, oh, bottom tier, and you hear stories like that, and you're just like, just
yes.
big smile, just
Warms my blackened heart.
And you know what? On the flip side, going to tournaments, going to something as big as LVO doesn't mean you need to go competitive. Big tournaments like that allow for a lot of fun. Members of Play On, we got to go down there in year 2. We're newly formed, so not a lot of people knew about us. We met a few patrons. It was a good time. But I remember the most fun I had, because I got my ass handed to me in the actual tournament, the champions. Me and Nick decided to play doubles. And he plays Tau, and I've got my relationship with Tau, my feelings about Tau. And so we created a side bet. We wanted to see whose commander could kill more models. And so I had a Phobos Librarian as my commander against Farsight. Like, that's not very fair. So we went the entire tournament just trying to figure out which commander could kill more models. And then we get to our last table, and our opponents were probably the most amazing opponents I've ever had at a tournament. They started to side with us and started to side with our side bet and tried to help us win our side bet, where they started to feed us models and start to make plays where they're like, yeah, kill this one. What's the score? How many do you have killed? How many does Nick have killed? Right? And me and Nick started to not play on the same side. We had this other thing where whoever announced using a command point got to use the command point. So we'd do ridiculous things, pull ridiculous stratagems to take command points away from each other.
So they were actively trying to hose each other.
We were actively.
I think they missed the point of doubles.
At one point, Farsight's gonna make a charge on some scouts. And I'm like, oh shoot, there's 3 scouts there, and Farsight's gonna go and kill them and get 3 kills. So I hose them with my aggressors, and then Farsight's left in the breeze with nothing to charge. And then a Chaplain Dreadnought charges into my my librarian. And at the time, you could opt to not use your close combat weapon and just use your profile. So I had this Dreadnought basically trying to kick me because he opted not to use his profile to see if my librarian could kill the Chaplain Dreadnought and get a point. So you can go to tournaments and you can go with just fun lists and you can have a blast.
Mhm.
Me and Nick had an absolute blast at the LVO.
Right on.
No, that's great. So pretty much, I think we're at about an hour and a half. So many thanks to you guys, to JT and Tag, for taking the time joining us on this episode. Hopefully the listeners will enjoy this as much as I have. I've had a great time. I'm sure Brian can agree with me. It was definitely great to talk to you guys, hear some stories,
Good laughs.
just hear the adventure itself. And I'm kind of like hoping like maybe someday down the road, like this could be us to like other newcomers. I'm like, yeah.
That'd be cool, man. That'd be really cool.
But no, thank you very much. And like I said, hopefully down the road, we can definitely have you guys on another episode. And hopefully for you, JT, with Drukari coming around, it'd be definitely nice once get a couple of games under our belts and just to kind of see where are we at with this and just to hear the lovely decimating of other armies through the Dark Kin.
Oh, yes. The Dark Kin, yes.
As Brian has to show the Tantalus in screen. Yes.
My precious.
But no, again, thank you guys very, very much for joining us on the episode, guys.
Yeah, appreciate having you on.
Thanks for having us.
All right, guys. Have a good night.
You too.